The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets overhead, but it was the sharp crack of Giovanni's fist against the glass conference table that shattered the silence. "You're fired, David. Pack your shit and get out before I call security." His voice was ice, cold, unyielding, the kind that could freeze a room full of ambitious suits into statues. I stood there, heart slamming against my ribs, the words hanging in the air like smoke from a fresh gunshot, because I knew this wasn't just about the quarterly report I'd botched. It was about the secret I'd buried deeper than my own damn soul. That was 3 months ago, back when Giovanni Rossi was still the untouchable king of our cutthroat ad agency on Madison Avenue. New York City, the concrete jungle where dreams got devoured alive, and I was just another wide-eyed transplant from the Midwest, chasing the glow of billboards and the promise of making it big. I'd landed the junior copywriter gig at Apex Creative straight out of undergrad, figuring my words could carve out a corner in this beast of a city. Little did I know, the real beast was the man at the top, Giovanni, with his sharp Italian features, perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, and eyes like polished obsidian. Eyes that dissected you without mercy. From day one, he was a force of nature wrapped in Armani. Tall, broad-shouldered, always in tailored suits that screamed old money mixed with New World hustle. Rumors swirled around him like exhaust fumes. Heir to some shadowy family fortune from Sicily, a Wharton grad who'd clawed his way up Wall Street before pivoting to ads. And yeah, the whispers about his personal life. "He's gay, but don't even think about it," my coworker Lena had hissed over lukewarm coffee in the break room. Guys got walls higher than the Empire State, crushed more hearts than campaigns. I nodded, pretending it didn't hit too close because my own truth was a locked vault. Out to a few college buddies back in Ohio, but here, in this shark tank, I was straight passing armor all the way. Our first real collision came during a late-night pitch prep for the Vanguard Pharma account. The office was a ghost town by 10 p.m., just the hum of the HVAC and the distant wail of sirens bleeding through the windows. I was hunched over my desk, caffeine-jacked and bleary-eyed, tweaking taglines for their new antidepressant line. Ironic, given how the job was slowly eroding my own sanity. Giovanni's office door swung open like a guillotine, and there he was, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, looking every bit the predator in his domain. "David," he barked, not even glancing up from the folder in his hand. "My office. Now." I scrambled after him, notebook clutched like a shield. His space was a minimalist fortress. Sleek black desk, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering Manhattan skyline, and not a single personal photo to humanize the man. He tossed the folder at me, my mock-ups for the pitch. Red ink bled across every page like arterial spray. "Amateur hour," he snarled, pacing like a caged panther. "This is why we lose clients. You think hope in a pill sells despair? Rewrite it. All of it. By dawn." I swallowed hard, the weight of his gaze pinning me. Up close, he smelled like expensive cologne and something earthier. Sandalwood, maybe, or just the faint musk of a man who didn't give a damn about vulnerability. "Sir, I can fix it. Just give me." "Excuses are for losers, David." He stopped inches from me, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, a jagged reminder of some untold war. His voice dropped, low and lethal. "In this city, you sink or swim, and right now, you're drowning." That night, I rewrote until my fingers cramped, the city lights blurring into streaks as dawn crept in. When I slid the revisions under his door at 5:47 a.m., I caught a glimpse of him through the glass. Head in hands, shoulders slumped. For a split second, the ice cracked, revealing a man who carried ghosts heavier than any boardroom battle. I told myself it was nothing, just fatigue playing tricks. But cracks have a way of widening. Over the next few weeks, Giovanni's scrutiny sharpened into something almost personal. He'd summon me for feedback sessions that stretched into the witching hour, his critiques laced with barbs that cut deeper than professional. "You're too soft, David. This town eats sentimentality for breakfast." Yet, in the quiet lulls, when the rest of the floor had cleared out, he'd lean back in his chair, fingers steepled, and ask questions that veered dangerously off script. "What brought you here, really? Not the bullshit resume lines, the truth. I'd fumble, heat rising in my cheeks. Chasing a story, I guess. Words that matter. He'd nod, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. Rare, like a solar eclipse. Stories. Yeah. They get you killed in the end. I started staying late on purpose, telling myself it was ambition, not the magnetic pull of those midnight confessions. One Thursday, after nailing a revision on the pharma pitch that even he grudgingly approved, we shared a rare victory scotch from the bottle he kept locked in his drawer. The burn of it loosened tongues. "You're not like the others," he said, swirling the amber liquid, his accent slipping through, thicker, more Sicilian under the influence. "They all want the corner office. You write like you're bleeding on the page." My pulse thrummed. The scotch warmed me from the inside, blurring the lines I'd drawn so carefully. Maybe I am. Grew up in a town where being different meant hiding. Here I thought I could breathe. His eyes locked on mine, dark and searching. For a heartbeat, the air thickened, charged with the unspoken. Then he looked away, jaw tightening. "Breathe too deep in this city, kid, and you'll choke." That was the closest we got to truth, until the betrayal hit like a freight train. It started with whispers in the elevator, sidelong glances from the execs who'd always treated me like the golden boy. Lena pulled me aside one lunch, her face pale under the fluorescent cafeteria lights. "David, watch your back. Someone's gunning for you. I overheard marketing saying your pharma tweaks were plagiarized from some indie blog." Giovanni's furious. Plagiarized? I'd slaved over those lines, pulling from my own fractured heart. Panic clawed up my throat as I stormed to my desk, firing off emails to trace the source. But by end of day, the summons came, HR, with Giovanni's name on the termination letter. I burst into his office unannounced, the door slamming behind me. He was at the window, back to me, the city sprawl a glittering indictment below. "You believe this shit?" I demanded, waving the printout. "It's a setup. Someone's framing me to climb the ladder on my corpse." He turned slowly, face a mask of stone. But his eyes, God, those eyes, flickered with something feral, unhinged. "Doesn't matter. You're out. Clean out your desk." "Fuck that." The words exploded before I could cage them. "I've bled for this place. For you. Late nights, your scotch-fueled pep talks. Don't pretend this is clean." His laugh was bitter, a rasp that echoed off the glass. "Pep talks? You think that's what this is? You're a liability, David. Emotional. Weak." He stepped closer, towering, the scar on his brow stark under the harsh light. "And now, you're done." I shoved the letter at his chest, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. "Look me in the eye and tell me you don't know who's behind this." For a moment, silence stretched taut as a wire. Then, in a blur I couldn't process, his hand shot out. Not to strike, but to seize my collar, yanking me forward. His breath ghosted my ear, hot and ragged. "You want truth? Fine." And then Christ. His teeth sank into the meat of my shoulder, not deep enough to maim, but enough to draw blood, a sharp electric sting that buckled my knees. I gasped, shoving him back, tasting copper on my tongue from where I'd bitten my lip. Blood welled under my shirt, warm and accusing. "What the fuck, Giovanni?" He staggered, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, eyes wild, pupils blown, like a man possessed. "Get out," he whispered, voice breaking on the edge of a growl. "Before I ruin you completely." I fled, the elevator ride a blur of pain and confusion, the city streets swallowing me whole as I hailed a cab to my cramped Brooklyn walk-up. Nothing made sense. The bite throbbed like a brand, but worse was the ache in my chest. The dawning horror that the man I'd started to crave, in ways I couldn't admit even to myself, was unraveling right before me. That night, as rain lashed my window and the wounds scabbed over, I scrolled through old emails, piecing together the sabotage. Footprints led straight to Marcus Hale, Giovanni's right-hand man. A slick Yale prick with a grudge since I'd edged him out on a promotion. But why the bite? Why the madness in Giovanni's eyes? I bandaged the mark, telling myself it was stress, a breakdown. Yet deep down, a whisper stirred. This was no ordinary firing. This was the unraveling of something ancient, something that had been clawing at Giovanni long before I walked into his world. Little did I know, the real storm was just breaking. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of New York November where the wind off the East River feels like it's carving your bones. I woke to my phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. Missed calls from Lena, a terse text from HR confirming my voluntary resignation, and nothing, not a goddamn word, from him. The bite on my shoulder itched under the fresh bandage, a purpled bruise blooming like an accusation. I stared at it in the cracked mirror of my bathroom, the fluorescent bulb flickering like it was mocking my reflection. 26, unemployed, and marked by the boss who just torched my career. Coffee couldn't fix this. Neither could the classifieds I scrolled through on my ancient laptop, ads for freelance gigs that paid in exposure and ramen noodles. By noon, desperation had me pacing my one-bedroom shoebox, the walls closing in with posters of Kerouac and Fitzgerald peeling at the edges. Ghosts of the dreamer I'd been before Apex ground me down. I needed answers. Not just about the frame job, but about that bite, that glimpse of savagery in a man who'd always been control incarnate. Screw it. I threw on a hoodie over my stained tee, the shoulder padded to hide the evidence, and cabbed it back to Midtown. The agency loomed like a monolith, all glass and steel reflecting the overcast sky. Security waved me through with pitying glances. Word traveled fast in these towers. But the floor was a hive of whispers when I stepped off the elevator. Lena spotted me first, abandoning her cubicle to drag me into the supply closet, the door clicking shut behind us amid reams of printer paper and dusty binders. David, are you insane? Giovanni's on a warpath. Cancelled the morning stand-up. Locked himself in with Marcus. What the hell happened last night? I leaned against a shelf, the bite pulsing like a second heartbeat. Fired, framed, and something else. I pulled back my hoodie just enough for her to see the edge of the bandage. Her eyes widened, hand flying to her mouth. Jesus, did he attack you? We need to call the cops. No, the word came out sharper than intended. It's not. It's complicated. How do you explain the way his teeth felt like a confession? The heat in his gaze like a plea. Just tell me what's buzzing. Marcus, he's the snake, right? Lena nodded, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. Overheard him on a call yesterday, gloating to some headhunter about clearing the board. And Giovanni? Rumors say he's cracking. Missed a client dinner last week. Showed up to a meeting with blood on his cuff. Like actual blood. People think he's using, again, coke or something, but that doesn't track. Guy's a machine. Blood. The word hung, sinking with the throb in my shoulder. I thanked her, slipped out before anyone else could corner me, and made for Giovanni's door. It was ajar, voices leaking like smoke. Low, heated, Marcus's nasal whine cutting through. Can't keep covering for you, Gio. The board's asking questions. That stunt with the new kid? Sloppy. If he talks. Shut your mouth, Marcus. Giovanni's tone was a whip crack, laced with exhaustion. David's gone. End of story. I pushed in before I could second guess. The door banging against the wall. Marcus whirled, his ferret face twisting in surprise, while Giovanni rose from his desk like a thunderhead uncoiling. Pale, unshaven, the scar livid against his skin. His suit hung looser, as if the man inside had been hollowed out overnight. David, he growled. But there was no ice this time, just raw edges. I told you to stay away. Marcus recovered first, stepping forward with that smarmy grin. Security's on speed dial, buddy. Trespassing's a quick way to tank any reference. Fuck your references. I jabbed a finger at him, adrenaline surging. You're the one who planted that blog link in my files. Traced the IP. It's your home router, you hack job. His smirk faltered, eyes darting to Giovanni. He's lying, boss. Kid's bitter, lashing out. Enough. Giovanni's voice sliced clean, but his hands trembled at his sides, knuckles white. He rounded the desk, positioning himself between us, close enough that I caught that scent again. Sandalwood and something metallic, like old coins. Marcus, out. Now. But Gio. Out. The word echoed, primal, and Marcus slunk away, shooting me a venomous glare over his shoulder. The door clicked shut, leaving us in a vacuum. The city hummed distant through the glass. Giovanni turned to me, slow, deliberate, his gaze raking over the bandage peeking from my collar. You shouldn't have come back. Neither should you have bitten me like some rabid dog. I yanked down the hoodie, exposing the mark fully. A crescent of teeth, bruised and inflamed. What the hell was that? Stress relief? Some twisted power play? He flinched, actual recoil, and for the first time, I saw fracture lines in the facade. Shadows under his eyes, a tick in his jaw. He sank into his chair, gesturing vaguely to the one opposite. Sit. Before you keel over. I did warily, the leather creaking under me. The room felt smaller, the air thick with unsaid things. Talk, or I walk to the cops with this story, and the bite marks to prove it. A bitter chuckle escaped him, head tipping back against the headrest. Cops. Yeah, that'd go over great. Cold-blooded boss goes feral on underling. He met my eyes then, raw, unguarded. It's not what you think, David. The bite. It's a marker. Old family shit. Curse, if you want to call it that. I barked a laugh, disbelieving. A curse? What, like you're a werewolf in a boardroom? Spare me the gothic novel crap. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Worse. My line, Rossi, traces back to Sicily post-war. Nano was a smuggler, ran with the wrong crowd. Pissed off a Brujo down in New Orleans during a deal gone south. Said curse. Blood calls to blood. Turns control to chaos when the moon's high or stress peaks. Makes you hungry. Not for flesh, he added quickly, seeing my expression. For connection. Truth. It strips the lies, forces the beast out. I stared, the rational part of me screaming bullshit, but the writer in me, the one who spun tales from fragments, leaned in. And last night? The firing. Marcus fed me the plagiarism line. I knew it was him. Smelled the deceit on him, literally. But the curse. It amplified everything. Rage, guilt. I bit you to. Mark the truth. So you'd know I'm not the villain here. His voice cracked on the last word, and he looked away, toward the window where rain began to spatter. I've fought it my whole life. Meds, therapy, isolation. But you, your words, your fire. It stirred something I buried deep. The confession landed like a gut punch, stirring the embers I'd ignored. The late nights that felt like dates. The way his gaze lingered on my mouth during critiques. I was gay, yeah, but Giovanni? The enigma who'd built an empire on solitude? Why me? I whispered, the question hanging fragile. Because you're real, he said simply, eyes locking back on mine. In a city of facades, you bleed honesty. And God help me, I want to taste it. Heat flooded me, not from anger, but something deeper. Longing, mirrored and magnified. I stood, rounding the desk before sanity could intervene, my hand finding his cheek, rough with stubble. Then taste it. No bites. Just us. Our lips met tentative, then fierce, a collision of pent-up storms. His mouth was warm, tasting of coffee and regret, hands framing my face like I was porcelain. For that stolen minute, the world narrowed to the scrape of his teeth. Gentle now, against my lower lip, the press of his body solid and unyielding. It wasn't lust. It was revelation, two souls clawing toward light in the dark. But reality crashed back with a knock. Lena, voice muffled. Gio? Client on one. Urgent. He pulled away, breathing ragged, forehead to mine. This changes everything. Yeah? I murmured, tracing the scar on his brow. Nothing's the same. We dove into the sabotage after that, a clandestine alliance forged in stolen moments. I worked from a borrowed desk in the corner of his office, digging through digital trails while he handled the facade of normalcy. Marcus grew sloppier, his glares turning to outright sabotage, deleted files, anonymous tips to the board. But with Giovanni, barriers crumbled. Evenings bled into confessions. His lonely ascent from a Brooklyn tenement, the curse's first strike at 18, claiming his lover in a haze of blood and loss. I swore off love after that, he admitted one night. Rain sheeting the windows as we shared takeout lo mein on his office floor. Too dangerous. But you make me wanna fight it. My own scars spilled out. Small-town ostracism, the ex who outed me via text, the fear that vulnerability was a one-way ticket to ruin. Here, I thought I could hide in plain sight. But with you, I want to be seen. Our touches grew bolder. Fingers interlaced under the desk during calls. A brush of lips in the elevator after hours. Romance in the raw, candlelit walks along the High Line, where he'd steal kisses amid the wildflowers, whispering Italian endearments that made my heart stutter. Tesoro mio, he'd say. My treasure. It was heady. This American dream twisted into something profoundly human. Two men, flawed and fierce, carving space in a city that devoured the weak. Yet shadows loomed. The curse episodes intensified. Nights where he'd vanish to his penthouse, calls unanswered, only to return hollow-eyed with apologies. It's the full moon cycle, he'd explain, but I saw the toll, weight lost, temper frayed. And Marcus? He was building his case, feeding the bored tales of Giovanni's instability, positioning himself as the steady hand. The breaking point came mid-December, snow dusting the streets like forgotten confetti. We just wrapped a pitch, my words, his vision. That sealed the pharma deal, a triumph that had the office buzzing. Celebration drinks at the Oak Room, mahogany walls and jazz humming low. Giovanni was magnetic that night, arms slung casual around my waist when eyes averted, toasts laced with private glances. But as the scotch flowed, Marcus cornered me at the bar, breath sour with gin. Think you're special, copy boy? He's using you puppet strings till he tires. Walk now or I'll bury you both. Rage boiled, but I played cool. Jealousy doesn't suit you, Marcus. Keep digging your grave. He laughed, low and ugly. Grave? Honey. I'm handing him his. Back at the office for one last file. Giovanni and I lingered, the building empty save for the night guard's distant footsteps. Snow swirled outside, muffling the world. We kissed against the conference table, slow and deep, his hands mapping my back like braille. Come home with me, he murmured against my neck. Tonight, no more hiding. I nodded, heart soaring, until his phone shattered the spell. Unknown number, voice tinny and urgent. Mr. Rossi? Board emergency meeting. Now, Hales called a vote, no confidence. The air iced over. Giovanni's face drained, the feral glint returning. Stay here, he ordered, grabbing his coat. But as he reached the door, a shudder racked him, curse surfacing, unbidden. He gripped the frame, knuckles splitting skin. David, run. It's coming. I froze, then lunged forward, wrapping arms around him. Fight it. With me. His eyes met mine, wild and pleading. I can't. Not anymore. And then the storm broke. The office transformed in that instant, shadows lengthening under the emergency lights as if the building itself held its breath. Giovanni's body went rigid against mine, a low growl rumbling from his chest. Not animal, but anguished, like a man wrestling demons with bare hands. Snow lashed the windows in furious gusts, the city below a wide-out blur, isolating us in this glass cage high above the fray. David? He rasped, fingers digging into my arms hard enough to bruise. Get out. Lock the door behind you. Call Lena. She'll know what to do. But leaving him, in that vortex of unraveling? No chance. I'd seen enough Lifetime movies to know the hero doesn't bolt when the plot twists. He digs in, flaws and all. Not without you. I shot back, voice steadier than I felt. I maneuvered us toward his office, the conference room's vastness too exposed, too echoing. He resisted at first, a puppet jerked by invisible strings, but then sagged against me, breath hot and erratic on my neck. We collapsed onto the leather sofa in his sanctum, the door barricaded with a filing cabinet shoved against it. The space felt intimate now, not fortress but refuge. His coat draped over the arm, a half-read copy of The Great Gatsby, spine cracked on the side table. Ironic, given our own ill-fated chase for the green light. I held him as the tremors peaked, his head in my lap, my fingers threading through sweat-damp hair. "Talk to me?" I urged, echoing his old command. "What's it feel like?" "Like fire in the veins," he gritted out, teeth clenched, the scar on his brow beading with sweat. "Everything sharpens, sights, sounds, truths I bury. The curse. It demands honesty, rips away the armor. Tonight, with the board circling, it's feasting." I swallowed, the bite mark on my shoulder throbbing in sympathy, a dull echo of his pain. "Then be honest. With me. No walls." His laugh was choked, eyes squeezing shut. "You're killing me, kid." "Fine. Truth." I orchestrated the firing. Not Marcus, though he's a weasel. I saw the frame coming, knew he'd use it to topple me. So I pulled the trigger first, pushed you away to protect you. Cruelty as kindness. His hand found mine, squeezing like a lifeline. And the bite? Desperation. To bind you to the truth so you'd come back fighting. Because alone, I'm lost. The admission cracked something in me. Not anger, but a profound ache. The kind that reshapes you. This man, who'd built an empire on calculated detachment, had schemed to shield me, even if it meant wielding pain like a blade. "You idiot," I whispered, leaning down to press my forehead to his. "I'm not some damsel. I'm in this us because it's real. Curse and all." His eyes fluttered open, obsidian depths swirling with storm clouds, but softening at the edges. "Real." "Yeah." "First time in years." The growl faded, replaced by a shuddering exhale, the curse ebbing like a tide retreating. He sat up slow, pulling me with him, our faces inches apart in the lamplight's glow. "Thank you for staying." We kissed then, not with the earlier fire, but a quiet reverence, lips brushing tentative, hands cradling rather than claiming. It was romance stripped bare, the human core of two guys navigating the mess of love in a city that prized perfection. Outside, the snow piled higher, sirens wailing faint anthems to our isolation. But peace is fleeting in New York's underbelly. Dawn crept in pale and judgmental, the board's emergency dissolving into a terse email. Vote postponed, Hale's motion tabled pending review. A temporary reprieve, bought by Giovanni's charm offensive. Calls to old allies, favors called in from smoky backrooms. We emerged from the office like survivors, disheveled but unbroken, sharing a cab through slush-choked streets to his Upper East Side penthouse. It was a revelation. Soaring ceilings, bookshelves groaning under leather-bound classics, a kitchen that saw more takeout than home-cooked meals. "Home," he called it, voice soft as he poured coffee, the domesticity a balm after the night's inferno. Those weeks blurred into a fragile idyll. I crashed on his couch, insisting on space, though his bed called like a siren's song, while freelancing pitches from his dining table, the skyline a constant companion. Giovanni balanced boardroom battles with vulnerability's tender shoots. Cooking pasta al pomodoro from his nana's recipe, the sauce simmering as he recounted boyhood summers in Sicilian olive groves, far from the curse's shadow. "Nano said it was a gift once," he mused one evening, twirling linguine on our forks. "Forces you to face the rot inside. But mostly, it's a thief." I'd counter with my own Midwest myths. Cornfield bonfires where I'd first kissed a boy under star-pricked skies. The sting of coming out to a father who responded with silence thicker than fog. "Hiding's its own curse," I'd say, and he'd nod, our hands linking across the table, anchors in the narrative storm. Marcus, meanwhile, simmered like a pot left too long on the boil. His sabotage escalated. Leaked emails twisting Giovanni's erratic behavior into incompetence. Whispers to clients about Apex's instability. We countered as a team. I drafted anonymous tips exposing his embezzlement from the petty cash slush fund. Giovanni fed them to internal affairs with surgical precision. Tension coiled, but so did our bond. deepening in stolen intimacies. A slow dance in the penthouse to Coltrane Records, his chin on my shoulder. Walks in Central Park where we'd feed ducks and dodge paparazzi speculation about the reclusive CEO's mystery companion. Love, in its American grit, isn't fairy dust. It's grit and grace, the choice to build amid ruins. Giovanni's curse became our shared vigil. Moon phases marked on a shared calendar. Herbal teas brewed from a Brujo's old recipe he'd sourced online. Half joke, half hope. During flares, I'd hold him through the fever, whispering stories I'd written just for us. Tales of outcasts finding harbor in each other. You're my plot twist. I'd tease, and he'd laugh, the sound rare and radiant. Yet betrayal's blade is double-edged. It struck not from Marcus, but from within, from Lena of all people. We trusted her as confidant, looping her in on the curse after a tipsy girls' night in, well, Guys and Lena night, where wine loosened tongues. She knew the stakes, the softness we'd carved out. But ambition is a hungry god, and when Marcus dangled a promotion, senior account exec with a corner office and stock options, she cracked. It unfolded on a frigid January afternoon, the agency abuzz with post-holiday frenzy. I was in Giovanni's office, brainstorming a Super Bowl spot, when my phone lit up. A forwarded email chain, anonymous sender. Lena's words, damning and digital. G's losing it, curse bullshit. Bites the help. I've got proof. Help me take him down clean. Attached. A blurry photo from that first bite night. My shoulder exposed, time-stamped. Marcus's reply, gold. Meet tonight. We flipped the board. Betrayal tasted like ash. I showed Giovanni, his face crumpling. Not rage, but grief, profound and personal. She was like a sister, he murmured, crumpling the printout. After my family cut ties, she was all I had left here. We confronted her at dusk, the office emptying like rats from a sinking ship. Lena arrived flustered, coat dusted with street salt, eyes darting between us. David? Gio? What's this about? I slid the printout across the conference table, the snow globe city twinkling mockingly outside. You tell us. Promotion worth selling us out. Her color drained, hands twisting in her lap. It's not, Marcus cornered me. Said if I didn't play ball, he'd tank my career. Panicked. The curse. This insane Gio. I thought I was protecting you. From yourself. Giovanni's voice was steel wrapped in sorrow. Protecting? By stabbing in the dark? We trusted you, Lena. With everything. Tears streaked her mascara, but her chin lifted defiant, human in her frailty. And I trusted you'd see reason. This city's a meat grinder. You think love fixes that? It'll chew you both up. The words landed like shrapnel, echoing my deepest fears. But Giovanni reached across, not to strike, but to clasp her hand. Maybe, but running, that's the real grinder. Stay, fight with us, or walk, but own it. She chose walk, resignation drafted by morning, a quiet exit with severance and a non-disclosure that silenced her tongue. Marcus crowed victory too soon, but we were steps ahead, evidence of his fraud compiled, handed to the board with Lena's testimony as reluctant corroboration. His downfall was swift. Escorted out mid-meeting, assets frozen, the weasel reduced to squeaks. In the aftermath, Giovanni and I stood on his balcony, Manhattan a jeweled sprawl under healing skies. Betrayal's a teacher, he said, arm around my waist, the city wind tousling our hair. Shows you who stays. I leaned into him, the bite scar faded but ever present, a tattoo of our origin. And who builds? With you, I'd face 1,000 curses. Our kiss was salt-kissed, alive with promise. The raw poetry of two men choosing each other in America's unyielding pulse. But the real tempest brewed deeper, in the curse's unyielding grip, waiting to test if love could truly conquer the beast within. Spring clawed its way into New York with reluctant blooms, cherry blossoms defiant along Riverside, the air shedding winter's bite for something tentative, alive. Apex stabilized post-purge. Marcus's empire of deceit crumbled under audits, his allies scattering like roaches to light. Giovanni promoted from within, installing a no-nonsense Latina firebrand named Sophia as his new second, her sharp eye and sharper wit a bulwark against future snakes. Me? I stayed on as lead copywriter, my desk now adjacent to his office. A deliberate choice, our worlds intertwined without fanfare. No grand coming-out memos, just quiet authenticity, the kind that speaks in shared glances across boardroom tables. Our life wove into a rhythm uniquely ours. Mornings with the Times over espresso, his penthouse a canvas for domestic experiments. Burnt toast forgiven with laughter, lazy Sundays lost in Criterion marathons, his head on my chest during Brokeback Mountain. Silent tears he didn't hide. Romance flowered in the mundane. Notes slipped into briefcases. Don't forget to eat. Beast. Stolen hours and hole-in-the-wall jazz dives where he'd hum Sinatra off-key, pulling me onto the makeshift dance floor amid cheers from grizzled regulars. This, he'd murmur, swaying to the bass, is the real American dream, not the boards, us. Yet the curse lingered, a shadow puppeteer. Episodes waxed erratic, triggered not just by lunar pulls but emotional tempests. A brutal client loss sending him into isolation, or a nightmare dredging Sicilian ghosts. I'd learned the signs. The tick in his jaw, the way his scent sharpened to iron, and we'd ritualized the fight. Dim lights, my voice reading aloud from dog-eared paperbacks, his hand in mine as anchor. You're more than this, I'd affirm, tracing the scar that mapped his battles. You're the man who built an empire from ashes. My enigma. He'd soften, the beast receding, but doubt gnawed. One April evening, after a flare left him drained and distant, he paced the living room, city lights casting long shadows. What if it's not enough, David? The Brujo's words. Blood calls to blood, but love bleeds eternal. What if I'm dooming you? I caught his wrist, pulling him down beside me on the rug, wine forgotten on the coffee table. Doom? Nah, we're writing our own ending. Curse included. I kissed his knuckles, each one a vow. Besides, I've got stories to tell. Ours. Summer scorched in, humid and unrelenting, the agency thriving on ad campaigns that captured the city's fever, youthful rebellion for streetwear brands, heartfelt pleas for mental health PSAs that hit too close, my words laced with our truths. Giovanni's public thaw drew media moths. Profiles in Adweek hailing his reinvention, whispers of a personal renaissance that had the tabloids sniffing for scandal. We dodged them with ease, our love a private skyline, visible only to us. But conflict crests as all good stories demand. The high tide hit in July, during a weekend retreat to the Hamptons, Giovanni's concession to normalcy. A borrowed beach house with salt air and endless dunes. It was meant as escape. Bonfires crackling against twilight, my head on his shoulder as waves whispered secrets. We'd made love there. Tender, unhurried, bodies mapping forgiveness in the sheets. No frenzy but a communion that left us breathless, entwined. The curse chose midnight to strike, full moon bloated and merciless over the Atlantic. I woke to his absence, sheets cold, and found him on the deck, shirtless, back arched in agony, nails raking his arms to draw blood, staunching the inner fire. David, go inside, he gasped, voice shredded. It's bad. Worse than before. I didn't. Instead, I wrapped him in a blanket, guiding him to the sand, the ocean's roar a counterpoint to his labored breaths. Let it out. All of it. He did, in fragments. The Brujo's full curse, not just hunger but a compulsion to wound what you love most. A vicious cycle born of his grandfather's hubris. Nano broke a pact, stole a relic, left a lover behind. It rebounds generation to generation. I've meditated, hell, I even tracked down the Brujo's kin in the bayou last year. They said only blood redemption. Confront the source, offer amends. His eyes, fever bright, fixed on me. But that means facing Sicily, the family ghost, and risking you. The vulnerability gutted me, this titan, reduced to a man pleading against fate. Then we face it, together. Book the tickets. He searched my face, doubt warring with hope. You're sure? This isn't copy, it's chaos. I cupped his jaw, thumb brushing the scar. Chaos is our brand. Remember the bite? We turned pain into this. Dawn broke as the episode crested, leaving him spent but resolute. We flew to Palermo 2 weeks later, the Mediterranean sun a balm on wounds old and new. Sicily unfolded like a fever dream. Olive groves silvered under cicada song, coastal cliffs plunging to turquoise seas. Giovanni's ancestral villa, a crumbling ochre pile on a hillside, greeted us with dust motes and echoes. Family portraits faded, Nano's ghost in every cracked tile. The confrontation came on a sweltering afternoon, in a hillside chapel where the Brujo's descendant waited. A wiry woman named Isabella, eyes sharp as obsidian, her English laced with island cadence. "Rossi blood," she greeted, no warmth. "You come crawling now? After decades of denial." Giovanni knelt, unbidden, the blanket of his pride shed. "For amends, the relic return it, and the curse, lift it if mercy allows." She laughed, a dry rustle. "Mercy? Your grandfather murdered my kin for that trinket. A saint's bone, meant for healing. Curse is balance, not vengeance." Her gaze shifted to me, appraising. "But love, that's the wild card. Show me yours." What followed was ritual raw and human. Giovanni recounting the lineage's sins, voice breaking on unspoken apologies. Me interlacing our hands, adding my piece. The man he'd become, not monster but mender. Isabella watched, then nodded, drawing a chalk circle on the chapel floor. Incense curled, chants low and lilting, as she pressed the relic. A small yellowed bone into Giovanni's palm. "Bury it with intent. Forgive the dead. And the living, choose grace." We did, at sunset on a cliffside grave overlooking the Tyrrhenian. The bone committed to earth with words we'd written together. Vows of endurance, not erasure. No lightning, no Hollywood dissolve. Just quiet. The sea's eternal hush affirming the shift. Back in New York, autumn gilded the leaves. The curse, transformed. Flares came gentler, more like echoes than tempests. Manageable with therapy sessions in a Soho loft, where a queer counselor helped Giovanni unpack the generational trauma. Our love deepened, unscarred. Proposals whispered over rooftop dinners. A simple band exchanged in a central park glade. Witnesses just the wind and a stray dog. No fanfare. Just us, vows etched in the American grain. Resilient, romantic, real. The agency thrived. My stories fueling campaigns that sparked conversations on mental health and hidden identities. Giovanni's leadership a beacon for the marginalized. Marcus faded to a LinkedIn footnote. Lena resurfaced with a contrite email, rebuilding in a rival firm. Forgiveness extended, but trust a bridge burned. One crisp November eve, a year to the day of that first bite, we stood in our office, the city a tapestry of lights below. He traced the faint scar on my shoulder, now a talisman, not wound. "Nothing's the same," he murmured, echoing the chaos that birthed us. I smiled, pulling him close. "Good. Same was killing us." In that embrace, amid the hum of a city that never sleeps, we found our human horizon. Not perfect, but profoundly ours. Love, after all, isn't the absence of storms. It's the choice to dance in the rain, two enigmas entwined, writing the story that endures.